Hello and welcome to the channel. In case you guys are wondering why I'm wearing shades, it's not because I'm trying a cool new look. It's actually because I can't see a thing because where I parked to do this video, there's like a glaring beam of light, which may be symbolic to the greatness of this video and what it will achieve. Or at least that's how I'm perceiving it anyways. So, as normal, as per usual, I am currently in between getting a caffeine run, which one day may take me out. So if I don't post anything for a while, it means inevitably I have crashed and burned because of the evil that is caffeine. Anyone who does two positions or two jobs knows that it's a rough gig. But, the working man, here to bring you a review. So today, I wanted to start a new segment because I've quite honestly wanted to change it up from just Captain Marvel talks. And I will be bringing another video about my newest favorite character, Goose the Cat. If you don't know, endorse Goose, okay? That is going to be my big pitch. I think that Goose is going to get his own movie. I don't know, that's just me. That's my strong opinion. And honestly, if the cat doesn't do promoting that Brie Larson has, I think it'll be a success. Box office smash. Marvel, if you do that, I want credit because I've been pushing this hard. Anyways, I'm actually here to talk about a good film. And the movie that I wanted to do as the classic throwback movie is one of my personal favorite holiday films. And the funny part is, when I watch this movie, I don't really know if it was meant to be a holiday film. I mean, it's got the Christmas theme and everything, but the demographic, I don't know. The 90s was a great time for me, and the 80s, like mid 80s, early 90s, was such a great time because the weirdest movies got pushed in the marketing department as like holiday features. I think even Lethal Weapon 2 might have been pushed as a holiday film. It was so weird. It was really weird. But whenever you hear this film is an instant classic. And this is what Hollywood lacks today, which is originality and creative thought. That's why I'm covering this movie as my first movie for the Throwback Wednesday. And if you guys have any movies that are older movies, preferably in the 80s or the 90s, that you want me to do a review on, leave it in the comments below. And once I have time, which always gets shorter by the day, I will review that film. But I want to talk about a great movie, a great action film, and I will even label it the greatest action film of all time. And that film is Die Hard. Anyone who knows Bruce Willis or anyone a little bit older knows about this movie. Now, first off, for everyone who watches my channel, I know I have a few people, parents, kids who subscribe to this, so I'm just going to say, full disclaimer, this is not a film for kids. This was made back in the day, so it's really not a film for kids because that R rating used to have. Now PG-13 even gets kind of crazy at times. So that's my disclaimer. Adult film. Anyways, Die Hard, I wanted to talk about because I feel like this movie is more complex than people realize. Okay, so if you guys don't know Bruce history, before Bruce Willis ever became the big action star that he is today, most people won't know he was actually a comedian, okay? He did funny kind of things. He was in a famous show called Moonlight, which was a comedy. I believe, if my memory serves me right, it was like about being married or something, and it was hilarious. Bruce Willis was genuinely funny, and all of the older folks, forgive me if I don't remember who his lead is. I know she's famous, but I can't for the life of me think of who opposite Bruce. And I know that all the SJWs would be like, because I'm a toxic male, and I apologize. I just remember the male lead. Anyways, so Bruce Willis started off in a completely different genre. And this film was a make or break whether or not Bruce Willis could transition into action. And you see movies like Unbreakable and things like that. And why I'm so harsh on them was because Bruce Willis has a range that I feel like a lot of people don't know about. Even watch Sixth Sense. Even though he's kind of stoic in that movie, he still carries emotional depth. I mean, guilt is on his face. He's very good at expressing emotion. But one thing people don't realize is Bruce is also good at sarcasm. And if you haven't seen my videos, I love sarcasm. I like to think of myself as excelling in sarcasm. Sometimes I've had coworkers get mad at me because they can't tell whether or not I'm being serious or I'm being sarcastic. I guess that's just kind of part of my persona. Whereas Bruce Willis, I feel, kind of developed this through this movie. So, if you don't know, the two main people that are worth mentioning in this film, because it was kind of one of those low budget blockbuster films that they didn't expect to be as big as it was Alan Rickman. And if you don't know who Alan Rickman is, I am a huge Harry Potter fan. He's Professor Snape. Okay, this man is a legend in film. He did before that, excuse me, a lot of little bit roles, and everyone he seemed to play a villain of some kind. So that was just his shtick. Bruce Willis, though, I feel like if I could have been around that time period, there would have been a lot of things saying they don't know if Bruce Willis can pull it off and things like that. Because just think about someone who was a comedic actor then says, I'm going to be an action hero. Now, in today's standards, it's not too far-fetched. The Rock transitioned, Robert Levy. I mean, there's been a lot of people who could now seamlessly transition into this role, but in that time period, it was taking a really big risk. And here's what Bruce did as the consummate actor that he is. And this is the problem with films now. Bruce Willis didn't go in and say, I'm going to be this machismo action man, right? What makes Bruce Willis's character brilliant in this film, and the thing that when I was a kid gravitated me towards this movie, was he was a normal guy. He wasn't some secret agent like James Bond. He wasn't even a special agent. He was a New York City cop, NYPD. Granted, tough job. Thank you. I'm trying something new. This glare is killing me. So, I mean, Bruce Willis, he was a regular beat cop. I mean, I believe in the film he was a detective, which is a little bit harder to do, but, he's just an everyday Joe. And when he goes to this building, the Nakatomi Plaza, he goes in there with the intent on trying to fix things with his wife. Okay? Like, they aren't specific how bad things are going, but he is basically sleeping on the couch. So, this film is about multiple dynamics that people don't realize. It's one about two people who work and they choose their works, their loves of what they do, and they're kind of in this really weird situation where anything could crumble their relationship. The female lead, she's taking a position at this Nakatomi Plaza. She's in a big corporate setting, which, oh my God, a female has a corporate position. Oh no, they're showing diversity between males and females. SJW should be jumping on this movie right away. Anyways, I digress. So, you have a strong female who is trying to support her kids and her own ambitions and goals. You have Bruce Willis, who's a cop, and all he knows how to do is to be a police officer, and you have that beautiful tension and conflict to set us up. So now you're interested. Now, Alan Rickman. Oh my God. I know his villain is so cheesy for today's standards, but my goodness, if that man does not pull off like mustache twirling cheese like no one I've ever seen. Okay? Alan Rickman plays the guy, Hans Gruber, who is going to hijack this building, take these people hostages, and he's got a deeper motive for what he's doing, we think. And that's the beautiful crux of this film when you find out what his plans are actually all about. And the great thing about these movies is they didn't try to have this whole overarching dynamic. We want to blow your mind at the end with some BS that destroys the story later on. This movie had a simplistic plot with a tiny plot twist you could kind of already figure out. And it lets the actors sell it. And boy, do they sell it. So Bruce Willis, right off the bat, starting off strong, starting off good. He even has this limo driver. He's an African-American limo driver. I believe his name is Goliath or something like that. It was something obscured. And the limo driver becomes a key figure in stopping this. So we have African-American representation. We have females being represented. And we have the male lead. So clearly this bias that Hollywood thinks existed, even in the 80s and 90s, didn't really exist the way you want us to believe. But that's a video for another day. So you have this amazing setup. And then the hijack happens. And the most beautiful part about this action movie that other action movies get wrong is that Bruce Willis is thrown into a situation right out the gate that's terrible. Okay, the man for I want to say about 40 minutes of the film does not have any shoes on. He is going through a room that's shot down, full of glass. He's crawling through vents. He's running around parts of the building that are being constructed because they haven't put everything together. I mean, in a word, he's going through the worst possible scenario you could be in. And what does he do? He's humorous about it. So right there, Bruce Willis starts off as a comic, and instead of going full like Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he knows he's not that kind of actor, he decides to go a different route and be the funny, relatable guy and say things that we would be thinking at the time. There is a beautiful scene. There is an awesome scene where he's crawling through the vents, and him and his wife had gotten into an argument, and he's crawling, trudging through the vents, and he's talking to himself as he often does in this movie. And he goes, "Yeah, John, come down. See the wife and kids. We'll patch things up. We'll make it better." Right? It's things like this that makes the movie really stand out. And of course, there is a scene in it, the most iconic line I will put into film ever. And he says, "Yippee-ki-yay." And I'm not going to finish that, but if you've seen the movie, you'll know what comes after that. That little line towards the end of the film has become one of the most iconic sayings. If you tell anyone from my generation, or even maybe younger people who have watched Die Hard for the first time, what they remember, the scene where he has the gun taped to his back and Hans is mocking him and saying his saying, and then he pulls the gun out and shoots him at the end. That is a classic scene in action movies. That goes down as one of the top 10 classic scenes of all time in an action movie. And I'm talking action movie. I don't mean drama or anything like that. Because there's a lot of classic scenes in different 80s movies, and especially the 80s action boom, 80s, mid-90s action boom that we had. But that is iconic. It's as iconic as, Mel Gibson and Danny Glover saying, "I'm getting too old for this." Though there's certain lines in films that are iconic, and that is the one. That is what makes Die Hard a classic. The setting for Christmas is nice because the setting is ironic to the film. It's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, and yet this individual is going through the worst time of his life. I mean, everything that's done in this film is done and done right. You could tell that the directors, the actors, all of those who were casted in this role, in these roles in this movie, they all had passion about what they were creating. And this speaks to a lot of things that I love about older films. Even going back to the 90s, okay? Um and 80s and such had really great classics and Clint Eastwood films and things like that. And I'll do a review on Clint Eastwood myself, my all-time favorite Dirty Harry. But to say the least, my thing is this movie has passion. This movie has goofiness. This movie knows that it doesn't have Oscar winning lines or dramatic things that are pushing it forward, but instead it doesn't try to be that kind of movie. It tries to be an action flick set in Christmas about a guy who is trying to get through two tough situations personally and what's going on around him at the time you're watching this film. And both of those collide beautifully. And while some parts are very corny, yes, this is one of those older action films. There are a few corny parts. And while some of the dialogue is really kind of cringy, there's something beautiful about the film that lets you love it for it. You see this movie right away and you love Bruce Willis. You love his wife. You love the limo driver. You love the cop that he meets and the back and forth dialogue that the cop and Bruce Willis has. And if anyone doesn't know, the African American cop was in a great show that I grew up with called Family Matters, with Carlton. If anyone remembers the old line, "Did I do that?" Um, that show was synonymous with that, and he played the father on the show. But yeah, I mean, this cast and the budget that this film was made for was very low. If my estimates are right, I believe the budget was in the thousands, which was high at the time, but not really now. I got to look up those numbers and figures. But long story short, this movie is a really good film. This movie epitomizes what making a good character is all about. Before this, John McClane was not known. Now, some people will cite me Live Free, Die Hard, and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed that out of the new Die Hards. I did not like the last one that came out, but that was really good. And I enjoyed it for what it was, but it wasn't the classic. It wasn't Die Hard 1 or Die Hard 2. I'd even take Die Hard with a Vengeance because Samuel L. Jackson and Willis really do make that film work, even if the villain's kind of generic. They pull that movie. They're back and forth. But this film started it all. And Willis really shows you that you can have a hero who is mortal, who's put in a terrible situation, dealing with personal issues and how it affects an overarching story, and you can do it well. And Hollywood, if you're doing these reboots and remakes and things like that, you should really look into your history and see what made a classic movie a classic to begin with. These are the things that people look for. This is what they identify with. Who doesn't identify with a guy going through a struggle in his personal life with his wife, and then all of a sudden thrown into a situation and they deal with it with sarcasm, humor, and a willingness to survive and get past it? Those are the themes of this movie. If you're watching this movie, really pick it out and look. The themes are about a man trying to make the best out of a bad situation and the personal struggles that he goes through. And had this movie came out now, it would have been panned hard by the critics because it's, first off, a man lead. Secondly, it's not saying that any one particular sex is superior. It's saying that both of them have issues, and by working together, they work the problem out. By the end of the film, Willis is in a better place with his wife because of this event that happened and forced them to sit together and work out a situation. And that's what life is about. So if you haven't seen it, my recommendation for my first throwback movie is Die Hard #1. Has the big picture of the Nakatomi Plaza on it and blowing up, and you see Bruce Willis's face. classic. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Go watch it after you watch this video. Watch it immediately, and that is good character building. But thank you very much, everyone who subscribed on the channel. I wanted to give a shout out to Angus. He's pretty well known YouTuber who subscribed to me last night, so I appreciate that. Other YouTubers are starting to notice my channels. If you like this, hit the subscribe button, hit that thumbs up. Leave in the comments below what kind of older movies you would like me to review. I did Stargate, so I'm open to suggestions. I do like reviewing the older films and really breaking down why they work as a movie. Also, if you like the shades in the hair, let me know in the comments below, because I'll keep them. Bam. Besides that, thank you very much. And as always, me and Goose the cat